Alright, the button is pushed. We're streaming. Are we streaming? There it is. Yeah, what's the thing? Don't worry.
I just got the notification. It says 11:11. It's 11:18.
What? Oh, I didn't change the doodad. I didn't change any of the settings. Let me do that right now, actually. Let me change this to 11:18. We're going to be doing scenery in the Scioto Valley. What else have we got? We've got cataloging various industries. And beginning to seed the industries. That's another thing that needs to be done. We're not going to be doing the automation stuff today. Yeah, let me save that. I don't know what that's going to do to the stream. I'm glad you noticed that, because I sure wouldn't have. Somebody would have eventually. Alright, posting the stream over there. Should get some trickle-ins in just a moment. If not, people can always watch the stream after the fact. All my streams go up on the channel as a VOD. Hey, Vsauce, Lara here. Where are your fingers? Wouldn't you like to know? Wouldn't you like to know? Okay, so first things first, we're going to be doing... Oh, first things first, check that route layer. We are. We're going to be doing grass along the edge of this here and in between the two. Which... I need to grab whatever grass I was using for this, which I assume... Okay, I'm going to need to do this spline, and then I'm going to need to do the shrubbery. I also probably need to do it along the edge of here. So let's do that first. I will at least put some token amount of grass. Now this is one of these where we got a little overzealous. We put down the trees first. We shouldn't have done that because it's going to make life a little more difficult in the end to make it look right, because now I can't see.
Gotcha.
I'm just in the corner of my eye focusing on Gloria digging the dog up. There are a few things for us to talk about today, too. I know that Trains 2022 was announced recently. I'm also almost done developing, or I mean, really, I am done. Gloria's been playtesting for me. Version 3.0 of the Coggers pack. At some point, that's going to be released. Can you do that? Yeah, you can do that. Hold on. I will.
First, a moment for our sponsors. Lafayette.
Hi, good boy. He so does not want to be held like that.
I don't know if anybody can see him.
I don't either. Hold on. We might be able to see on here. Yeah, you can see him. You can see him. It is very, very disgruntled. Like, please stop picking me up like this state.
He's a good boy.
I know, he's a very tolerant boy of me holding him on my lap like a baby while I'm in meetings. Because he decides to sleep next to me. Mm-hmm. And
me putting his ears up in the pictures.
With a little
Nice scrunchie.
with a little scrunchie. Yeah. He's very tolerant. He's very chill. He doesn't get finicky about getting poked and touched. Unlike Trains 22 TBH cars, I say we're watching the world load one pixel at a time. Well, 3.0 is going to have Optifine back in it. I tried to make a Coggers Lite, and I do think I can make a Coggers Lite, but I can't get it as light as I would want. Now, if you're playing in single player with the thing, you can modify it, you can adjust what mods are in it, etc., however you want. I'm not gonna judge you for taking something out or adding something in, particularly the weather mod, which was one of the first things to go when I was like, okay, let's see if I can pare down this pack a little bit. It was the weather mod, it was the portal gun mod, and then it was a couple of other, like, not as useful things like Spartan weapons, quality tools.
Does my hand taste like the honey coffee chicken that I had?
Between 22 and I haven't even upgraded it, switched to 19. See, that's a I think that 19
Maybe.
is a huge step up over 10. At least maybe not huge for everyone, but at least significant for almost everyone. Just in terms of performance, and I mean that's about it. It's not like it adds any crazy amazing features, uh, except removing everything except Pam's Harvest Craft. Yeah, uh, and cooking for blockheads and farming for blockheads, because those are also great mods to have. 3.0 has farming for blockheads, which adds a couple of. It's a relatively small add-on that goes very well with Pam's. One of the neat things it has the seed market, but it also has um, the feeding trough, so you can automate like feeding of farm animals, which I thought was very cool. That was one of the things that made me get that. In my current Coggers 3.0 test world, I have not yet made one of those, but I would like to at some point. It takes a golden carrot, which I think is ridiculous, but it does seem like um, the stuff that's in the like basics of cooking for blockheads is also kind of overpriced for what it is. I mean, it takes 2 diamonds to get the recipe book that shows you everything that you put into the crafting grid to make the like base block for cooking for blockheads, which is like it's a very helpful block, but man, does that seem too expensive to me. And honestly, if I had the patience to sit down and figure it out, I probably would change the crafting recipe to something less important than that. Because it's one of those things, cog being what it is, and in 3.0 I added a hello Brian. I added like a bunch of like getting started tips and tricks notes. Um, okay, when you come back, I'll get you set up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go grab my medicine and stuff.
Okay. Um, yeah, I know, right?
Water?
I would appreciate some water. Yes, thank you. I added some startup notes, and of course, one of them is like, hey, start farming as fast as you can. Start farming early. Go, like, don't just be farming, also be foraging, also be, like, using the traps that come with PAMs, which those are really cool and helpful. Uh, kill animals if you have to. Like, crop farm and also animal farm. Have some livestock pens, etc. Everything you do in the beginning, like 20 minutes, the beginning few days even of a Minecraft game, and I know 20 minutes is 2 days, but whatever. Um, it at least it definitely is if you have a bed, which should be your number one. Like, okay, find sheep, kill sheep, make a bed. And normally the recommendation is never kill the animals, but I suppose you can really quick make a pair of tin shears because copper and tin are everywhere. But the recommendation I give is just kill a few sheep, make a bed, because sleep is a lot safer than even being in a hovel at night, because you wake up in the morning and you could have armored mobs, you could have infernal mobs that are not dead yet, creepers, which could be infernal. Um, yeah, there's lots of things that'll murder you right away in Coggers. Lots of 99% of those are infernals, and the other 1% is messing with chance cubes. But because I designed it as like a hardcore mod pack originally, which I haven't played hardcore on 3.0, I want to, but I wasn't far enough into playtesting to want to devote myself to that. Um, I just wanted to make sure that I could lay out the basics for everyone, because some of the people that have downloaded it and wanted to play on their own uh, brought me questions of like, hey, what should I do? I can't find this or whatever. Um, and so I started laying out some basics, Get a bed right away so you can sleep through the night. You don't ever want to be awake through the night. Don't...
Unless you're human.
Yeah. Um, don't hesitate on starting to farm. Find a local water source like a riverbank or something where you can just start putting dirt out into the water, because you're going to need to do that because you're probably not going to have a bucket right away. If you can find one of the big dungeons, they're useful for shelter and also for getting some early iron and stuff like that out of the loot chests if you're brave. And once you have a shield, which you can make a wooden one with one of the mods I added, which is Spartan Shields. I believe it goes alongside Spartan Weaponry, which would make sense, but I didn't realize that when I was putting them in the first time. Which is like, Spartan Weaponry, Spartan Shields. I went Spartan Weaponry because I heard about it, I thought it was cool. Spartan Shields, I literally looked up wooden shield mod. And that's what brought me to that, because it became obvious to me, especially if you're playing in hardcore, you can't really fight, particularly skeletons, without a shield right away. So, my solution was find a way to get the player shields earlier. Because I don't want you to have to run and hide for that long, because especially in Coggers 2 and beyond, one of the most important things is going caving. Now, in early Coggers, in the first release of the mod pack, the recommended configuration involved very, very large and spread out ore deposits, strategic clouds. And while those are cool, they are murder on computers. So, yeah. Now, the pack has only gotten bigger since then, and yeah, I'd like to figure out how to settle it down into something, and I still think I can do it. I just played with it for a little while, removed a bunch of mods, and it wasn't running as well as I had hoped it would. And I sort of said, well, I'll just call this a failed experiment for now and come back to it someday later, because I wanted to get back to playtesting 3.0. But yeah, farming wooden shield, bronze armor. Yeah, okay, I'll come back to that. I could talk about Coggers more later because it's on the brain. I could not sleep the night after I started developing it, because my mind was racing. No, it's Trist, it's okay. You brought us back on course. I did want to talk about that. So 2022. Now I got a receipt the other day in my email, and it was surprising. It was from N3V, and I went, huh, what? Have I bought something? And I realized, it's been a year since I signed up for the train's gold or whatever, the subscription, so I can get into MPS early. And that was it renewing, and I did not expect that. I was like, oh right, that's right. It renewed automatically. It's been a year. I wasn't upset. I was just surprised. And that made me think, if I'm paying for the subscription, and 2020 is probably going to be included in the subscription package in some way, shape, or form, I'm probably going to end up moving to 2022 right away. Because I've barely got settled in 19. I'm going to be honest. I am, a dozen episodes into working on Tolbrand on 2019, if that, and I've been doing a lot of scenery work, but I've also been, I scrapped all the AI because I figured they weren't going to work anymore. I've made some headway on other things. I'm playing with, not features of 19, but I'm playing with features that may well end up changed. I need to move this back to where it belongs now, going forward. And I think, especially because 19 is a good investment, in my opinion, for just about everyone. But if 2022 turns out to be an even better investment, then it will be a no-brainer to move up to that. And then, even then, the people that haven't upgraded can do that straight away. The folks that are still on Tane, yeah, the folks that are still on Tane, I see you, I feel you. I'm just not going to be releasing more uh, Tane updates of this map already. I don't really understand why they don't bother to probably fix updates for 2019. I mean, here's the deal. 2019 is pretty well done, if you ask me. Uh, it's one of the only Trains games in memory that I can think of that didn't have a god-awful, horrendous release where everything was broken. Uh, there have been some issues in the service packs, but I didn't hesitate on getting 19 because I thought it was broken. I just hesitated because I'm a stick in the mud. Lafayette's got a toy. I think there are very clear advantages. I think that N3V did a pretty good job with 2019, and it's how it goes, you know. I'm sure when they released 2019 and they released the subscription package and stuff like that, they talked about doing it so that 2019 would be something like the last version of Trains. That's not what they said, but that's what they were getting at. Just like a lot of games that release these days, what they want to do is have a game that they release and then update continuously with new features and everything, so you don't have to release a new product again and again. Now, there are two problems with that. Number one is it's not great for marketing because you need to convince people to buy a subscription service, stuff like that. And also because, well, this is an old. There's no like big event a lot of the times to draw new players in. And even with releases, how do you market a release like that? Especially because it's not like we have major version numbers. This isn't Minecraft. We don't have 1.7.0. We have build numbers, but yes, I will set you up. We have build numbers, but we don't have like big milestone numbers like a lot of updating games have. 1 second, please. So, yes. For your gap between, yeah. So, yeah, that's right. We've had this is on the release schedule basically. If you go by old release schedules, it's on the release schedule. At least they're not trying to push a new Trains game on us every year. But it does feel a little weird, especially when you have these mega projects that your projects are outliving the game uh, that you bought for them. But I mean, that's just a consequence of the dev cycle and stuff like that. Like I was trying to get into when they put out 19 and they announced their subscription package and the way they were going to do feature updates going forward, they were trying to sell it like we're not going to do other Trains releases, we're just going to do big feature updates, and this is how you get access to them in advance, and this is how you get access to them in the future. But I would wager that they're doing this out of, I mean, partially marketing, but that's probably not all of it. I'll bet that they got to a point in their development of the betas and stuff in 2019 where they realized, well, we can't just keep adding on to this. We can't release this as a package. It's never going to be good enough unless we go back to the beginning and, work on this as a whole new package. So I'm sure that's what they came to. I'm sure that's the conclusion they reached. And so now Shoreline's now playing 2019. I just, that's what makes sense to me. So 2022, it being released now, it tracks. It makes sense. I am not surprised that we're having another Trains release. I'm taken off guard because, yes, vote for transit. I'm taken off guard because I just wasn't prepared for it because I've just barely moved up to 19. But even still, I'm paying the money to have the subscription, and the subscription's probably going to come with 2022, and I'm probably going to want to move up to 2022 just so I can get the most amount of time in that game before I have to move over to something else, 2025, or whatever the next Trains game is. And if they manage to make 2022 the game they want it to be, where they can continually update it and they won't have to make new landmark milestone releases every few years like they have been. Because let's be honest, this isn't Halo. They're not adding to a continuing campaign and saga, and storyline. They're putting out feature updates. And Train Simulator has figured out how to do that. I'm sure N3V can too. But maybe that's not just how they, that's just not how they roll, or it's not how their code is built. But it's, like I said, it seemed to be like what they wanted to do. Also, yeah, the last 2 years are a bit of a black hole, but that's beside the point. Uh, so many people are on Tane because the cost of a new game is steep, but and people are worried about the performance issues. Way more detail. Train's a small group development. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good point. Also, train simulators are pretty niche. I keep having to click off, and when I click back on, I place down grass somewhere I don't want to put grass. Anyway.
Did you get a cat?
Not right now.
What? Look.
Cute. Alright. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. The long and short of it is, this is not unexpected. I hope it's good. I'm probably going to end up moving to it fairly quickly. At least I could see myself doing that. And also, I'm excited for what it brings in terms of features, in terms of MPS, in terms of, just, yeah. Well, also, I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion that a game with a small dev team is going to have bad performance. Look at Factorio or something. Uh, I hope Surveyor 2.0 is more user-friendly to a lot of things, because then I won't be doing this as much. I can't believe I'm still doing this. Yeah. You can... The other thing is, especially with the older games, 2019 notwithstanding, but especially with the older games, there's no, like, continued revenue stream with those. There's DLC, but Train's in-house DLC has always been kind of spotty at the best of times, and the revenue stream of that compared to the cost of a dev team to make a game like this is it doesn't stack up. Tane is getting up there in the years. And for a game that you would hope is continually updating, that is a while, we have games that we still play that are ancient, like Locomotion, for example, and it hasn't exactly received any feature updates in recent history. But oh god, 2015, I can't even, I struggle to believe that, even though I know it's true. Yeah, just think about it. Some of the first, we started doing the Iron Horseman on Trains 12, I believe. So, yeah, there's that. The announcement is not a huge surprise, and I hope it's everything we hope it's gonna be. I hope it has good, useful surveyor tools that I can learn and make this route better, etc. Slightly distracted in the moment. What's it doing? Still loading? I just want to make sure everything's working over there.
It was already booted up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we gotta fill all this in, then we gotta go down on this side of the tracks. We gotta go further than where we were. I assume these are this shape for a particular reason. That is something to consider, right? Even like feature updates, etc., we get a handful of new things every few years and we pay for them. Train Simulator. What? Train Simulator, you get a few things every year and you don't really pay for them, but every piece of content you have to pay through the nose. I'm trying to figure out how to fit all this grass in here. I'm running out of room. Are you okay? Lafayette is standing behind me making, like, throw-up noises. And it's getting me concerned.
No vomit, please, no vomit. I don't feel like cleaning up your puke.
That would be unfortunate. But yeah. I did want to talk about that. I'm glad I was able to. I'm glad I was reminded to talk about 2022. And I'll be honest, I haven't looked at any of the promo material surrounding it. I don't know what we're supposed to be getting. I just know that it's coming. I saw the announcement, went interesting, and then I got launched into a conversation about multiplayer surveyor and assets, and how it would make a lot of sense if N3V decided that, to put a hard line on multiplayer surveyor, saying that if you want your asset to be usable, you've got to put it on the DLS. And they've been pushing people towards the DLS, pushing content creators towards the DLS pretty firmly for a few years now, certainly since they debuted MPS in any form, in any real form. And I'm sure part of it is just a technical thing. They don't want to have to deal with third-party assets. Part of it, I'm sure, is a legal thing. We're in the Scioto River Valley here. Part of it is a legal thing where they probably don't have to worry about MPS users being able to share illegal, or not illegal, but illegally share payware content, and then N3V being legally responsible for it. Lawsuits, etc. Oh, you made a game where you can, you encourage this by making multiplayer surveyor accept these, bits of content. Because right now it's a single player game, you don't have any incentive to get, well, to steal or to illegally download or to illegally share payware content unless you just want to use it yourself or somebody wants to use it themselves. But where it's like, oh, let me do something with my friends here. Oh, I need this content. Let me just grab it. It reminds me of Run 8 in a way, where Run 8's content is fairly expensive. For a piece of a route, it can be $50. And sometimes that piece of a route is hundreds of miles of track that's, accurate to the gradients, etc. But it's still a lot of money. And in order for someone to, particularly the routes, in order for someone to be able to use, say, the whole route on the server they're playing with their friends, it's not, it's, a lot of things that I've heard, because I was looking into getting Run 8 for a while, and I had people going, "Hey, I'll send you all the things," because I was just looking at how steep the cost was. It's like, oh, if you want to play this MPS route with your friends, but this MPS route includes all of these K&L engines that you've got to buy, and they're all, $10 a piece. Well, okay, are you going to drop $100 to play this one route, or are you going to ask your friends to send you the custom content? Whereas if that stuff is locked up behind the DLS, like Trains knows when you import a third-party piece of content. Uh, yeah, 9 years ago, huh? It feels like an eternity ago. It's like, oh, well, those content pieces are great, and you can have them, and you can use them however many times you want, wherever you want. Like, they're worth the $10 a piece, surely. But if that's not what you're here for, if you're just here to play, you know, uh, let's say, I don't know what a route is that would handle this stuff, but like the equivalent of the Pennsylvania Eastern region, but in trains, and it has all these Pennsy engines, most of which are K&L. It's like, okay. If that's the only thing you're here for, why are you going to pay $100 extra for it? And I'm not saying that, and part of that is almost underscoring, like, well, it should be, maybe it shouldn't be bundled that way, but that's the way content works. Um, yeah, I was absolutely complaining about Trains 12 back at that point. And that's why I talk about, like, I took years to move over to Trains 12. It took me a really long time. I was doing '06 up until, well, you guys could probably pinpoint the year, but up until, like, shortly after the zombie train started. So after Trainman Plays Crusader's Locomotion, or Train Crusader's Locomotion, uh, Trains 2006 series, and then I started. It was well after that, wasn't it? Because I started Zombie Train episode 5. I think was starting the um, Tamaros Vale and Anaconda, and that I'm pretty sure was in '06. So maybe I didn't even move up to 12 um, until I started working on the Horseman route. And yeah, it was unoptimized. It wasn't very good when it came out, or at least I didn't like it. Uh, and '06 was running better until '06 just died, because that's what '06 did. Uh, the last version of the TV era could have been in Trains 12. Yeah, that's probably fair. Um, what do you? Oh. We'll come back for this area later. Need to go up this way. What is this here for? I don't even remember why I put this here. What is this? Shearing Shed 09. Let's get rid of that. Although I like it. I could add like a little farm here. A farm crossing. And the old versions of it. I don't think I have a version of the Tamaros Vale and Anaconda. I may. I may somewhere. And maybe I can look later. But I don't think I do. I don't remember having it. Last time I went and checked. Yes, sorry, the beach towel special. I do need to write that down. Let me just put that in my ideas doc right now. I was trying to remember what it was earlier. So, ideas. Um, boat. Okay, well, whatever. Let's just put it down to the bottom. Beach towel. No other context. Maybe I won't remember what that means. What do I want to do with this area? We need to do something with this area later. just put like a road right here for future. I ate so much at dinner. I'm surprised I'm awake right now. I'm gonna have like that like Thanksgiving-esque passing out due to eating too much food. Food coma. It's coming. But let's see here. Let's just put this grass in here. I didn't want to get this. This isn't even detailed, but I didn't want to get this detailed with this area yet. I just want to put grass down. Where the hell was I? I was probably gonna talk about. Oh, knocks on it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna fall asleep. I was probably gonna talk about how I have always lagged behind with moving, hence that I just moved to 2019, as someone pointed out in the Discord. Which, if you want to join our Discord, there should be a link down below. If this happens to be your first video of mine. If this isn't your first video of mine, feel free to show this to your foamy friends and family. Not that there's anything exciting going on here. I'm just placing down grass. I mean, the goal of this series, when I came back to it, was really be a mix of, like, Under Construction and Enter the Track Mark, which was a proposed series of mine, which would have been a detailed Q&A, like, showing you how to do things series. And so I decided to do Q&A on this, and then people don't ask too many questions, so I didn't need to. So now you're just going to watch me place grass for an hour and hear me yammer. Because apparently I have a lot to say on past versions of trains, etc. Lafayette's whining to get in the couch. So, I don't know, I should spend some time reading what we expect to get and formulate a better opinion on how much I'm going to enjoy 2022, whether or not which is ultimately irrelevant because, like I said, I'm probably going to end up with it. If not, I'm probably going to get it. I don't feel like lagging behind as much anymore. Part of me is always like, oh, well, wait, you don't need to necessarily rush and spend money on this and whatever. What if it's broken right away? At the end of the day, I'm going to spend money on it anyway. So I might as well get used to the systems, just get in there and figure it out in all the time that I have and not have to worry about, oh, when's the next one coming out? I got to get ready. I got to have this thing all in order. Hopefully, I can make decent progress on this over the course of 2022. 2022's reign, I suppose, to get to a good stopping point and get beyond this chunk. My forest is made out of speed trees. I don't suffer major performance impacts from speed trees and never have, and I'm not entirely sure why. I know some people suffer with speed trees quite substantially. I don't for some reason, and it beats me. It really does. I suffer much more with splines and just random objects than I do with speed trees. And that's why I can wander into this woods here. I can bury my face in this forest and look out across the forested hills and not have a problem with running the game. And then I walk into Mason Valley, which has basically no trees right now. And the computer, you can hear it start up. It's like those memes of PS4s powering the fans on. Yeah. And the splines is really awful, and here I am adding more splines. That's why I want to get to the grass, like the turf effects and stuff like that. I've just never learned how to do it. Still don't know how to do it. And honestly, because they're probably going to change it in Surveyor 2.0, I don't see the point in me learning how to do it yet. I feel like I should be waiting, and then later on, yeah, they are incredibly tedious and mind-numbing, trust me. I know. Here I am doing it. We are how long into this, and I've just been doing grass blinds. We are 40 minutes in. I was going to guess 40 minutes, too. Okay. Yeah. I guess my internal clock is doing pretty well today. I'm drink some. Yeah, I'm putting in 3 layers of grass blinds adjacent the track because I want it to look good. And this area is probably not going to have room for grass blinds. And then we're going to get into some more serious stuff over here. And I'm only going to be using like 3, maybe 4 kinds of grass blinds through this whole run. But I'm going to be using a lot of them because it does help to not just perfectly layer them. I know that's kind of what I'm doing now, but they're above the camera now.
I'm seeing an ad for an achievement hunter
Nice.
on YouTube. Oh my god, they have a show on Apple TV.
Do they? What is it?
It's called Rooster Teeth.
That's the name of the show, or is just their some of their content up there? Because they have put out some like bigger budget shows. Rooster Teeth has put out some like quote unquote like tentpole pieces of media like hardcore Monopoly and hardcore mini golf, or hardcore tabletop and hardcore mini golf, and Last Laugh and Day 5 and that sort of thing. Like, they've made some pretty intense stuff. I don't know what of that has made its way into Apple TV. Looking for enough variety in the speed trees. In here, yeah, I kind of just went for like it's supposed to be like a Maple Beach Birch sort of thing because the good old Maple Beach Birch spline, if you guys remember that. If I really wanted to go nuts, there would be some other kinds in there. But the thing is with this is it's non-uniform enough to be non-uniform, but uniform enough that nothing is identifiable because I'm copy and pasting the same block over and over again. And yeah, I'm rotating it sometimes, but nothing in there is like, oh, here's that one pine or few pines again that stick up above the other trees. It's helped by the fact that the other trees are all more or less the same height. That is... I think it's a good middle ground. I could go more in the busy direction, and honestly, I could probably transition what trees I'm using as we get into higher elevations and stuff like that, because I do want to change the climate a little bit, and changing that is going to be a difficult thing to get right. I'm going to have to do it very gradually. Because right now everything more or less looks the same. You have, if you go along the coastline here, you've got the same trees and also some sand. And then if you go up this way, you've got the same trees and also some like dirt and mud. And then you've got this disaster, which is still like, what was I thinking? What was I doing up here? It's just a large barren piece of land because it's a little bit more sloped than the rest of it, as if trees could not possibly grow on this land. These areas are way too dark. Although I think that might be the same texture that I use for some of the cliff sides. Yeah, it is. So that's just showing up a little weird. If we go up to, say, Jefferson's Cut here, that's this texture, and it looks a lot better in 2012. Yeah. It looks a lot better in Tane than it does in 2019. For whatever reason, it just has the contrast boosted in this. Also, now you can hear it kick off. I can hear it, my fan started going. But I also am in the middle of the trees here. See, that's a half-decent explanation for it, but I don't know what I was thinking. It was not like an intelligent choice of terrain making. There's no like prototype for it or anything. If I had a brain, I would go through and I would change it to some other texture. Or just put trees on top of it. Oh, what the heck? I'm missing a texture. Oh, right. This needs to be trees. I forgot about that. We're going to have to come back to that. Let me write that down. Swamp patch. See, I thought we were done up to this river here, but we have a couple of little patches that we still need to do. But aside from that, we are basically done up to this, which I think is Little Creek. Let's see. Named objects. Little Creek, yeah. Which is always funny because it's the longest river on the map. Thus far, anyway. And I like the fact that we have this sort of continuous topology. I know some routes that would probably get lazy and omit this in here or wouldn't carry this river all the way through. But every river has a headwaters and a tailwater, except this, I guess. This lake is just sort of a kettle lake. But you wouldn't necessarily need water flowing into this. I could always put a little berm here that would show it. I think we have some fairly significant falls here. Yeah, like, I mean, I could put in some white water here if I really wanted to. But point is, we've got rivers. They go through.
They like asparagus too.
Oh, good. I think they just like all veggies. Let's see. How far are we? We're not even at Doe Cliff. Yeah, the water is kind of a pain. I'll admit that. The water can be 100% a pain in the butt. Did you find a bunch of lapis? Nice. Gloria's currently doing more of playtesting of Coggers 3.0.
I want to create a new world because I literally spawned at all islands. I cannot find a stable.
Oh, the UMR. It isn't realistic. There's so much water everywhere. What'd you say?
I want to create a new world, but I can't do it without your help.
I mean, you can do it. I believe in you. You just need the cog fig. Although you need to go and find that. Although it's in the same place it usually is. I think. Well, it might not be. The way to set up cog for like my recommended settings is like burned into my brain. As long as you're not stranded on an island, just try to make the best of what you've got. Excuse me. And honestly, and oh, goodness. An island spawn in Coggers is not the worst thing in the world. It's...
But I can't find a place to stay because I left the dungeon.
Well, figure one out. The realistic topography is one of the things where I really wanted to nail that on this map. That was... When I designed Tolbrand initially, when I had my first little sketch of like the 9 towns, the 9 major towns on the peninsula, I was just like, oh, okay, I'm going to make a big map. It's going to be a big map. The main line's going to be over 200 miles long. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because I was just coming off of... We had finally settled on the size and shape of the Iron Horseman Railroad. And I was looking at the map that we had put together and the trains route that we had put together and going, God, this thing's small. Like, it's not small. It's got some spaces to run, but the towns, relatively speaking, they're so close together. And I started realizing that on basically every trains route I'd ever made, and on most ones I'd ever touched from other people at that point, the towns were really close together. And I went, okay, if you're going to build a big route, if I'm going to build another big route, I'm going to have to make sure that we cover realistic distances. And to that end, I want to make sure that, hey, not only are we going to do realistic distances, in order to make that make sense, we're going to have to do the terrain as realistic as possible also. Because without that, you just have a relatively boring map. You know, you have the cartoony, like the terrain is repeating, the background is repeating every 5 minutes. Out of the island of Sodor that dwarfs the IHR. Yeah, well, because the island of Sodor is designed to have like realistic spacing of things. The IHR is not. Uh, and when we designed it, I was like, oh, this is going to be a big map. We're going to all be working on it. We're going to put this together, and there's going to be like lots of space in between towns, etc. And then we made it, and I was kind of disappointed because everything still ended up really close together. So that was the thing that drove me to design Tollbrand in the first place. And now that we're here, and I have 15 miles of main line along the coast, and uh, you know, other main lines running inland, and this 7 mile long river with one little town on it in between the two major towns. And that's still not a great distance, but it's a lot farther than a lot of people bother with, even. You can see ones don't really exist as destinations, they all have building industries, yeah. Uh, the the way this map is spread out, where you look at this map, and honestly, like I said, the way this is designed right now, if I finish texturing, I feel like I could put this out as a route. Uh, uh, it's got a lot of running for the amount of towns it has. And yeah, the towns are pretty industry heavy still. I feel like I do fall into that trap. Uh, but they also are substantial in terms of just their townage. One of the things that I did when I built Olive was, and this was a first for me. I sat down and I went, okay, we're gonna need residential space, and I started thinking about like SimCity. Like if I was building this in SimCity 4, how much space would I allocate for the residents? And I blocked out like a dozen blocks or more of space that was going to have nothing to do with the railroad, that has a little bit of railroad history tied into it, as far as there's, you know, as far as there's like a rusted up X main line in the middle of one of the streets, and that's it. It doesn't even have like a trolley system. It doesn't even go that far. It just is, you know? We have dozens, or, at least a dozen blocks of just space. Just, scenery. That was a lot of work for the amount of return that you get on it, and it's a hell. It's hell on performance. But it makes it a real town, you know? It doesn't just make it a bunch of freight stations, a bunch of industries, with a main road with, like, the Route 66, like Radiator Springs tied on to Selkirk Yard. That was massively far from what I wanted to create, and this is much closer to what I wanted to create. Alright, I was going to put press F to pay respects over here. I was going to put a farm over here. Am I going to spend 2 hours just doing this? Maybe. Yeah, it's possible. I just wrote down to do this, so this is what I'm doing. I need the shrubs. I don't want no shrubs. I need at least 1 row, maybe 2 rows of shrubs in here. Selkirk-ish. Yeah, in fairness, in real life, Selkirk is a tiny town with a giant rail yard attached to it. Selkirk as a town is so small, you can be forgiven for not knowing Selkirk was a town. Or is a town. It's just like a cluster of buildings and also a small residential area that aren't really near each other and are just exist to, like, be a couple blocks on the side of Route 9W. Uh, it's there's not a lot there. Um, if if it were not for Selkirk Yard, I would never have been to the town of Selkirk other than passing by the sign that says Selkirk on Route 9. Um, you know, yeah, an iPortal route. I love iPortals, honestly. I put in iPortals on this, and I'd love to just dick around with somebody. I've had a couple of opportunities to play with iPortals, and they've almost never worked. I really wish they were more reliable. Um, maybe something MPS will help with that, but I assume the existence of iPortals is so far in the rearview mirror for N3V, they couldn't be bothered to even worry about fixing them because they sort of came out as like a gimmick, you know? They were in the one Tidewater route that was split in two, and I've legitimately never seen anybody use them in anything else. I've always had one in the routes that I'm building, or at least I've tried to remember to have one, but it just seems pointless because I feel like they never work, or, you know, whatever. For example, of a place that you would only know existed if, yeah, exactly. Uh, I've seen the house of the fire marshal of Selkirk because it's right where I used to illegally drive into Selkirk Yard. Uh, but that's it. I've never like eaten at a restaurant in Selkirk. I don't even know if they have one. Uh, yeah, I know, Dean. Yeah, you and I did mess with iPortals just to try and get them to work. And it's always one of those things where I feel like if we just spent like another hour, we would be successful with them. But it's always you get frustrated and give up after a relatively short amount of time, uh, and just go, well, whatever, you know, it's whatever. We'll try to do this another day or something. Let's do something else. Okay, Redding, let me show you an iPortal. You know what? Actually, it would be cool to see if we could do a demonstration. Uh, maybe towards the end of this video. Dean, do you want to try again? You want to dick around with iPortals for like half an hour at the end of this episode? Or however long, just to see if we can get a train to go from one thing to another. Although, I don't have I can't get quick drive to work. Uh, Never mind, I can't, for whatever reason, this hates quick drive. I don't know why. I can't get it to work. Uh, when I put the rule in, like, I don't know, it just, I would have to seed it. I would have to set it up instead of just placing down a train and going, which would probably make it take inordinately more time. I remember when there used to be just like a quick drive button on every route, which was a fleeting but wonderful period of time. I think, is there still? Because I'm going to want to do some investigation in a minute, and then we'll come back and do trees. Um, if I don't pass a no trespassing sign, I haven't trespassed. I was just looking for where you would illegally drive into Selkirk Yard. Yeah, it's down. It's at the east end of the yard. It's right where the CP main peels off to go north. There's a road there, and there's a couple entrances into like the dirt area, and then you can drive over some crossings to get inside the Ys. Yeah. And then lets you go into the section of the route. Um, I I'm not sure whether you're asking me that or doing that. Yeah, if you don't pass a sign, how can you really be blamed? And if they stop you, you just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't read." If you did pass a sign, you just tell them you can't read, and that's, you know, I'm sure they'll be just fine. I'm sure you'll be just fine. That was a hell of a story. Uh, I wish I could do that again. I just don't. Like, I could go in there again. I just feel like I'm an older and wiser person, and I'm less apt to trespassing, specifically on that acre of CSX property. I will gladly trespass somewhere else, like for example, inside a large warehouse that may be very close by. But I don't know why. Just given the opportunity to do that again, I would probably be like, I don't know. Um, then again, literally was never accosted. Like, no one ever said a word to me when I was sitting out there. Uh, Not even all the CSX maintenance people that came out, uh, and including that one time that I just took off because I thought someone was coming. There were plenty of opportunities for CSX guys to notice me just sitting there and send someone to drive out and tell me not to sit there anymore. And it never happened. So, who knows? I would like to purchase that parcel. I want to buy that area right in the middle of the Y. Build a little hut there. Just hang out and play illegal Monopoly. Next Horseman trip, we print out an actual copy of Insane Monopoly, bring it to the middle of that Y, and along with as many takeout menus as we can. We set up one of those little fold-up, like, pop tent things that you put on a porch, or like you take to a family cookout. A card table. Hell, if we set up a grill and, like, if we set up a grill and we make burgers, and if ever a train gets stopped, like right there at one of the signals, you just go up to the crew and offer them a burger. Or even better, you erect a makeshift like mailbag stand, but hang a burger off the end of it, or like a bag with a burger in it. Quick Tribe is underneath the third tab, I'm pretty sure. I looked there and I could not see it. Maybe I'm blind, maybe I'm stupid. No, because that's right. I just have switch back and forth between driver and... Oh, yeah, I guess I can do that. Just switching back and forth could break things. I need to remember to save and etc., etc. I'm not even sure it'll work if we're on different versions of trains. I'm not... Actually, that's a good question. How far can you stretch iPortals in terms of versions of trains? Can you send a train from 2012 to Tane, or send a train from Tane to 2019? That's something to experiment with. If you really want to sit down with iPortals and like stretch the limits of iPortals, that would be a good like not a community special, but something like that, something akin to that. Yeah, they can't stop us all. I was watching some old meme compilations, and the Area 51 stuff comes up, and I go, "Wow, that's right. That was a thing. People did actually go out and do that. That's hilarious." Between that and the Josh fight, it's two of the greatest things the internet has ever organized. Um, and then there was that one time that Reddit thought they caught the Boston bomber. Uh, Oops. I remember Kevon telling a story about how he was camping like in a park or something, and he was really close to BNSF, and they just kept coming through at night and waking him up. It's like, yeah, this is what you signed up for. Okay. Send a Detainer 19, but not vice versa. That's hilarious. I find that hilarious. The idea that you can send a train to the future. It's one-way time travel. This is... Oh god, what series is... I mean, it's like Stasis Pods, more like. Because... Let's see, Back to the... Not Back to the Future. Terminator has one-way time travel, right? You can only go backwards. That's like one of the tenets of the series or something. Anyway, you can one-way time travel. You know what would be really funny? You just get a bunch of people to set up iPortals, and you have a train go from 2006 to 2012 to Tane to 2019 to 2022. If you can get it to do that, you're going to need some really old assets to do it. And you know what? I think I know the assets. SRL number 1. There's your asset. I tried to remember all of us being upset that nobody actually tried. Yeah. No, literally camp. Like, just set up a tent. I'm advocating for physically camping next to a railroad main line. Use the original zombie train. Yeah, that's right. That 3254, it'll work. It'll have to be an asset that hasn't changed at all from the original to now. That's the thing. And it has to still work. It has to be new enough to work and old enough to work in the older versions also. I think State Line Tunnel is like in a preserved area, like you can camp there, I think. Because I remember walking into the woods above State Line Tunnel and finding like a little stand with a brochure holder where you could get information on the forest or something. And T-pose. Yeah, when you assert your dominance over the railroaders. Okay, we need to go clear off this road. So let's do that. Setting up an iPortal only for some stupid circus train. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, I think I've gained a new appreciation for a lot of the really old, really simple routes that were in, like, Trans 2006. Because I could go for something like that right now. You know? Just one of these routes where it's, like, just a singular loop. It's 2 tracks, it goes in a loop, there's a power plant and a coal mine on the route, that's it. I could go for something like that right now. It just... a return to simplicity, you know? Just let me set up like 3 AI trains. Excuse me, watch them go. Sorry about that. That seems terrible. Yeah, and they also, yeah, they run really well because they're incredibly simple. I should try to move over some of the old routes. I remember being... You okay?
Creeper came out of nowhere.
I remember being, like, eternally... where's the boy? Okay. Eternally, like, disappointed opening those routes up because I wanted them all to be like Industrial Wasteland, where there's a gajillion things to do. And then I downloaded the UMR into into Tane, because I was like, oh, you know what, just give me this ridiculous route so that I'll just see if I can set up some AI trains on it. And then, like, I got disappointed at that too, because obviously there's not to my knowledge, there's no, like, comprehensive documentation on what goes where. But it's also just a route that's big for the sake of being big, and that presents its own problem of, like, well, people slacked on this or that or the other thing. The industry system is, like, quasi-functional, you know? It's got a lot going on, But a lot of that is just like, well, yeah, I guess you can take this commodity off the map if you really want to. Otherwise, you're kind of out of luck. I remember that being my disappointment. Yeah, I know there are sessions for it, but you know my ultimate goal is like I'm gonna automate this thing. I'm gonna make it all run on its own. Uh, and I think on a route like the UMR, you know, I don't know. My old routes are technically lost media, especially Geiger Mountains. Rip. R.I.P. in peace, Geiger Mountains. You are missed every day of my life, because that was the closest I have ever come to truly fully automating a route, and it was janky and it made no sense. It was ridiculous, but it worked. Actually, you know what? One other thing, uh, I did fully automate, and that was the junction. And there's a video of that up on this channel as well. That was a route that I had managed to fully automate. Um, I liked I like routes with a lot of AI trains doing a lot of interesting things. And I used to the one British route in '06 that was like the section of main line, uh, and the one branch line, the Hawes branch, I think it was. I used to spend forever on that, just doing stuff on that because you had to contend with all the AI traffic. Onal Jeeps. I'll be honest, I thought the Onal was on purpose. I really did. This is done-ish. Oh, this part isn't. Let's do this as well. How far are we into this thing? We're losing a bit of steam in terms of view count, so maybe I'll just finish this grass and we'll come back to it later. Let's see. What time is it, though? It's 8:50, so we almost have an hour left. Yeah, part of me does want to dick around with iPortals, but part of me does not want to figure that out right now. Maybe I can do that as like a special video at some point. Um, Maybe it can be an exercise in how many instances, how many different copies of trains can I have open at the same time? Can I install 2012 and Tane and 2006 and 2019 on the same computer and run them all at the same time? I got my fire extinguisher right over there, just in case. Uh, but that would be hilarious. That would be. I'll spend a couple hours, or I could spend a couple hours, or even the better part of a day, trying to get a train to go from the oldest version of trains that I have to the newest version of trains that I have. Speaking of long streams, though, expect something this weekend of me trying to do a long stream in Railroute. So, Railroute announced on their Discord, uh, we have one rule here, Hem. Railroute announced on their Discord that they're doing a competition for best score on the new Osaka Endless map after 24 hours in game, and I think I'm gonna give that a shot. At least I'm gonna try to get as far as I can. There are gonna be people that are much better than me, that are gonna do much better than me, absolutely. But I am going to give it a shot. I have never played the Osaka map before. I don't know what all of the what all the quirks are. I know that you can mess with the scoring pretty substantially by just having a bunch of freight contracts terminate in within the hour. Uh, I didn't have any trouble. I mean, I got Fallout 76 on the Xbox, and man, that game was fun. I wish I had had more time to play that. Uh, I know that's still sort of going, and there's still a pretty good community around it. I I never had most of the complaints most people had about Fallout 76. I enjoyed it from day one release. Or well, not day one, but I enjoyed it from shortly after release when I got my hands on it. Alright, so we filled that in. So yeah, now we have this up. Next episode we could probably fill this in, although we got to do Elvira Valley Grain. Let's see. We came up to here. We're not gonna do Doe Cliff at all. I'm gonna. I did the grass up to here for a reason. I'm not gonna build this area yet. That's possible. That most of the problems came from PC users. Although maybe most of the users were PC users. But anyway, we're really getting there. What else is on my list? Telephone poles. Jesus Christ. Telephone poles, holes in fields, Mason Valley shrubs. Can we figure out a way to plug these holes, actually? Or let me see if I can find a grass spline to use on the banks of these rivers. And also, I failed to make my mention about the... I'm not going to be too Doe Cliff. No. We're not going to make mention of... sorry, I wanted to make mention of the bush spline that was made mention of. And it's because there are not very many good bush splines out there, in my opinion. They're not there. These are all just different colors of the same thing. How fast can I click? No, that's not an effective one. That's not great. Let's not do that. I need to figure out how to fill this in. The A-line in miniature. The year is 2040. Doe Cliff is still grid, yeah. Yeah, it definitely was people clowning on it. Doe Cliff has that. No, hold on. Hold on. Screw you. Hold on. Let's work on some industries. Is that what we want to do? What do we want to do? What else do I have to do? Valley shrubs, holes, and fields. How far in are we? We're an hour and 17. We've got about an hour left. Yeah, let's try to get some industries done. This is going to be a long road. It's going to be a struggle. I could do more of the same, but I want to change it up at least a little bit. So that means I got to press this button, and that means I'm not going to be able to see you guys anymore. What the heck is that? K-Tane. Oh, keep talking, nobody explodes. That's right. Excuse me. So, where is our spreadsheet? Industries and balance. Now, we still have stuff to do over here on this, but we have a lot of industries to smooth out. Let's see. Look at all that yellow. So we did a lot of stuff in Mason Valley. Let's go down and do stuff in Mason's Landing today. We also need to name all this stuff, including the, yeah. So this one, general goods, 16 out over 32. Let's start with this. You okay? Big bad in oh, okay. Don't fall to your death, please.
No promises. Oh, a dungeon.
So Franks and Son. Okay, we're gonna change this to. Oops. We're gonna change this to items as usual. We also need to rename this. So this is MV Franks and Son Ltd. Probably. MV Textiles. Is this still the right name? Is it called MV Textiles? Probably. You know what? Probably. Um, Let me check my standards really quick. Standards document. Industry track. Town/railroad name use. So this will be ML Mason's Landing Franks and Son Ltd. So beach towel special. That's all I have written right there. This is a producer industry, right? So yeah, Franks and Son Ltd. General goods out, box 16. This is fine. This is 1 carload. Let me just make sure it's okay in terms of this. Yeah, 1 items every 5,400 seconds. Size 32, waybill 50%, load into vehicle, processes. Let me just double check that one. So, carloads per day, units per carload, 16, 5,400, units per day, 16. Perfect. I'm glad to see that that was right. What would be the next major section of railroad? That's a good question. Although I know I've said it before, but I'll say it again because I know it can get lost in the flood a little bit. So this is 15 miles from here to here. The next section I'm going to build is going to be 15 miles from Mason's Valley to the town of Bellington, which is going to be about over here. Bellington is going to be a little more inland. It's going to be a lot less industrial. It's going to be much more agrarian. And if we want to pull up really quick, let's do this. Let's do... where's my maps? Maps. Tolbrand. We pull up this doodad. Although this is probably not the newest map. Nope, that's a very old map. Okay. Yeah, this is the newest one by far. I should really start throwing other things in a superseded folder. But if we pull this up, let me show you Bellington real quick. Because Bellington and South Bellington are an interesting thing. So right now we have, let's see, where is it? No, that ain't it. Where's, oh, there it is, Tolbrand. Yeah, so that's what we've got. I intend to build to Bellington next, and that should be another 15 miles or so. Like I said, it's going to be more inland. We've got to cross one big river, another big river. We get to Bellington. It's a mostly agrarian town. It has South Bellington, which has the Mansfield Branch Railroad, which is this thing in purple. And also, once I get there, then I'm going to start building this line to Appleton. And once I get there, then I'll be able to start building this way and eventually meet here at this town that's unnamed. So I'll have this whole loop done. And then we'll move on from there. And at that point, I genuinely don't know what I'm going to do next. So, probably this, like trying to fill in this chunk. But we will have to see. There is a town in between. It isn't named. I don't know what it is. It was never, it wasn't included on my original assessment of what the railroad would be. I just put it there because I felt like, this is a lot of distance without a little town. So, there's probably going to be a little town there. Maybe it'll have a flag stop or something. Another little, probably mostly agrarian community. So, there we go. Let's go over here to Industries. Frankenstein Ltd. General Goods Out Box. Yes, we are done with that. That one works. Stagnaro Canning Company. That is you right here. See, this takes in the steel coil load. Although it takes it in over here, I believe. Gosh darn it. Which doesn't make a lot of sense. Excuse me. In fact, if I remember right, we found a um, we found something, right? We found what was that item that I was so excited to find. Uh, Now I can't remember what it was because I figured it would go to everywhere for everything. Um, well, runs down 6 nitrate. Um, I wish I remembered what it was. It was definitely like boxes or pallets or uh, that sort of thing. Crates, maybe. I can't. I wish I remembered now. Um, I don't know what it was. I don't know. I don't know where it is. What? What the heck does he need? Okay, hold on. Let me look. Work email. The last thing I googled was, can salmon be pets? I accidentally opened the MBTA app. Sorry for this brief intermission where I have to figure out what the heck is going on. We need to be charged. Oh, charges. Charges, not changes. Okay. Whatever, I'll deal with that tomorrow. Does anybody remember what it was? I know what you're talking about. Uh, Oh, quick question related to the IHR. Why did Andy, a pretty grounded and responsible person, trust Ivan and Hank, two of the most untrustworthy and unreliable engines? Because everyone else thought he was insane. Because they were the only people he could get to work on his insane plan, because it was an insane plan. Uh, he wanted to make, he wanted to squirrel engines away because the end of steam was nigh, which he was right. But going to that length is definitely a little nuts. And so Ivan and Hank, being also nuts, were the ones that he could get to go along with it. Everyone else was like, okay, sure, whatever. You're nuts. There it is. Empty 2.4 meter pallets. What was this in? I was in this railgun. Let's see. We'll do this instead of the steel. We'll do this railgun. Uh, this railgun thing. So let's. This is ML Stagnaro Cannon Company. How do I set this up again? Stagnaro Cannon Company, name, use. So I'm pretty much in the right place. Pallet drop off. And so instead of this, get rid of this. We're going to do empty pallets. 2.4 meter pallets. Size 20 because 10 is a carload. Weighbill 50. Limited 256 units. I don't understand why these are the way that they are. Tracks, get rid of you, add empty pallet. Oh no, this one's bugging out on me. Please let me fix it now. Let me put it back in. I was really excited that this bug had been fixed, but apparently it's not perfect. Nuts. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to slide this out of there for now. I'm going to move the buffer, or at least grab the buffer. Slide this to a location. Oop. quite... I forget that it doesn't rotate it from where your cursor is, it rotates it from just the middle of the object at all times. Which is a good and bad thing, I think. Also, I'll note that the screenshot shows this thing on a flat car, which I don't have a flat car that carries these, but that certainly makes me believe there's one out there that can... God damn it. That can carry these. Thank you. Let's add this back over here. Yeah, these are actually signals. That makes sense. Alright, let's try this one again. Empty 2.4 meter pallets. As long as I don't confuse it, everything should be okay. Yay! Unload from vehicle. Processes. Actually, this isn't going to have a process because it's going to use the industry link. So we're going to use the industry link here. That's going to be an interesting one. So there's going to be no process here. It's just going to hang on to the pallets. Size, let's see, 20, because 10 is the thing. Product, set this to item. Items. Start us with 10. Did TH&B ever notice that their boxer never came back? Seeing as we're probably never going to get to it, realistically speaking, there is in fact an episode that was planned for the very end of season 2, called "The Man Comes Around." It was written by Flegel actually, and what else does he go by? Whatever else he goes by, and it details. It was actually a fairly long episode as written, detailing the recovery of Lassie by a TH&B employee who came looking for the missing boxcar. Stagnaro, I believe it was Stagnaro, right? Stagnaro Canning Company. Stagnaro Canning Company. Pallet drop off. Okay. So we have pallet. Yeah. Then we have this, which this is almost certainly going to break when I start messing with it because of that. Remove that. Let's put in empty pallets. I'm so afraid this is going to break again and it's just going to screw us over. Let me just see if I can. I'll pick up drop off, load into vehicle, processes. Yay, it worked. Okay, empty 2.4 meter pallets. Products. You. Stop clicking on that, idiot. Items. Items. This is where stuff gets really hard. Excuse me, sorry. It's just how do I make these numbers work? We're consuming 10 and we're creating 16. So how do I make these numbers work? Also, we're not starting with any because it's going to come from... Actually, we will start with some here. 10 items, 10 units. And you, 16 items, 16 units. Your way bill is 50%. Processes. What are we going to do? So we consume... It's going to be like a 1.6 thing. So we consume 2 items. We produce 3 items. No, that doesn't work. Then we create 15, which is almost a full car, but it's not. Crap, this is not going to work out, is it? We're going to create just under a full carload, which honestly I guess is fine. It's just a little less loaded. than the alternative. So, yeah, we'll have to do that. Produce 3. Consumes 1, produces 3, which sort of makes sense. Duration in seconds. Now we need to divide a minute in seconds into 10 parts, which should be totally doable. So, units per carload, 10. Time for... Oh, wait, sorry. Carloads per day, 1. Units per carload, 10. Units per production, 1. Time for production, 8640. Right? Yeah. And it doesn't have a decimal on it, so that's good. 8640. Oops, 8640. Yeah, those are both good questions. I mean, the whole saga with the Roundhouse and Hank, I think the Google Docs you posted of Johnson's stories were able to be edited by anyone. Oh, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good at all. But you know what? I suppose I can always revert a version if they end up getting griefed. Oh, right. Your queue needs to be larger than this. So you will initially have 10 items. Waiting, you will initially have 0. Because we're going to have it all moved over automatically, originally. And then we need to edit this thing. So here's our industry link. Oh, and I never set this thing up, did I? ML, Sagnaro Canning Company, goods pickup. There we go. From ML, Sagnaro Canning Company. Wait, why did I write MC? Hold on. I really did write MC. Wow, what a night. The real question is, where is 89? At the point in time that we're covering, he's still known as the Terror of Montreal, and he's still in the CN. In Quebec. I don't know how similar that is to real life, but that was his original thing. So, ML pallet drop off, ML goods pickup. Yeah, that sounds normal. Yeah, no, he wasn't really doing anything. I mean, he was making a name for himself. In fact, even Blount probably would have heard of him. Sounds normal. Wait, what? Yeah, no, he was. Or sorry, in Montreal. Yeah, I'm probably messing up some Canadian geography. I can revert the most recent version to the 1/1/2016 edit. I mean, has it been edited? Anyway. I should have copies of those somewhere. And I can always go fix that, but it's not a big deal right now. Just add it to my to-do list. Pallet drop off. Okay, so this should move all the pallets that got dropped off there to over here, and then they'll be processed through. Right? Yes. Okay, cool. In Horseman chronology, now this is a little spoilerific, but again, this is the kind of thing where, realistically speaking, we are probably never going to. I mean, there have been edits to just the first story. Realistically speaking, we will probably never get to the point where we get to talk about, or we get to show off the full history of what happens on the branch line. But the odd, it's a lot of industry links. The long and short of it is, they have Ivan Westy and Gabe, and then Johnson asks a favor of Jerry due to a situation with the Northumberland roundhouse being condemned and uh, the Pennsylvania Railroad like historical collection having to be sent out, like just sent elsewhere because it can no longer be kept in Northumberland because the roundhouse had fallen into disrepair and, like I said, was being condemned. So, okay, we got to figure this one out. Mason's Landing, Signara Cannon Company. Oh, whoops. No, hold on. I need to fix this one. Our Cannon Company, it's going to produce only 15. And that was going to be a whole thing. And one of those things was, or one of those, like the fallout from it, is that Penny, our 1223, Johnson sort of leverages favor with Jerry and says, "Hey, can we take this engine in? It might not be, it might be for a short amount of time. It might be for a long amount of time. I can't really tell you. If you like her, obviously we can keep her. But can you just hang on? Can you make sure nothing bad happens to her because she means a lot to me?" Because Johnson and Penny have a history because they were both display engines. They both sort of were PR engines for the Pennsylvania. Right back when Johnson was, excuse me, relatively young, before he came to the Iron Horseman, of course. So that's how they get Penny, and that starts this like weird love triangle thing with Ivan and Westy, both trying to get the girl. And then traffic ramps up a little bit, but in 1958. So that was 1956, I believe. 1958 has Chuck Berry visit the Iron Horseman Railroad and has heard Ivan's parody of Johnny Be Good and likes it and thinks that Ivan is hilarious and wants an engine to pull his touring train. And so Ivan gets contracted out to pull Chuck Berry's touring train and even performs Ivan Be Good at a couple of gigs. And in the meantime, they need another engine, so they get Jacques, or 89. And blah, 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 he's the Terror of Montreal. And, history goes from there. So that's how you end up with the 5 branch line engines that we know and love. Plus, of course, Tommy, who doesn't like kids. He doesn't. He needed a place to go. He wanted a change of scenery. He agreed to, sort of like Big Joe, agreed to a thing without reading all the fine print, and became Thomas. Anyway. Alright, let's work on some other industries. Sorry, I get distracted with telling those stories. IHR stories that might... I mean, as far as canon is concerned, they're real. They're real stories. But they're probably never going to get turned into real episodes, unfortunately. Alright, let's see. I've got done that. I've got done that. The coal trestle and the cowgill, these two we can do right now. So, I don't remember what I had posted. Probably just 1 carload a day for the coal trestle. We got to do Bayside Brewery as well, but that's gonna be troublesome. 69-120, which is probably 1 carload. Let me just check. Oh, you know what? That won't even show me. It's a little less than 1 carload, apparently. So why is it this? 69-294. Oh, is it because this is set up differently? Hold on. How does this do? Yeah, consumes every 60 seconds. Okay, we're going to need to do some math here. Carloads per day, 1 units per carload. back to coal. Coal is 69,294. We want to go a little bit over. So 69,294 units per production. Or sorry, 69,294. Time for production is 60 seconds. 60 seconds. Okay, so we actually want it to be probably 49 units per production, because that'll be a little bit over instead of a little bit under. It'll be okay. It'll work out. Ready, you sort of read my mind. That's probably what's going to happen. 49. And then we'll do 69. What was one carload again? 69,294. So, yeah. It can hold more than that, but whatever. So that one's good. We just need to set that up in the doodad here. So it's going to consume 69,403. Well, it's not going to consume 69,403 because it's not going to have 69,403. The maximum is going to be 69,403. The current is going to be one carload, which is 69,294. Oh, we still need to rename it. Yeah, that's exactly the way it goes. ML Mason's Landing Coal Trestle. So this is for boats and for people. Anyway, boats and homes. Boats and homes. Okay, cowgill seed and supply. It takes corn. Oh. What a good boy. Okay, so this at least is in items already. So corn. Let's rename this real quick. ML cowgill seed and supply. So I can mark that off anyway. Man, everyone just left. I get it. Cowgill seed and supply. This 60,000, 60,000. Is that what it's doing right now? I mean, it's set up properly. Let's just make sure with the process. 72 times 50. Is that 72? Well, not 72 times 50, but industry calculator. Carloads per day. Units per carload. 60K even. Units per production. 50. Yes. Perfect. This one is set up properly. So that one I can mark off because this one is just fine. Although, why doesn't it start with exactly 60K? That's weird. Beats me, man. Okay. Industries. Oh, we need to be adding the cars for them. What am I doing? I'm forgetting the other, like, important thing that we're supposed to be doing when we mark these things off. Wow, idiot, dumb. Consumer industries, cowgill. Yeah, let's mark this one off. Let's just make sure we put the cars down now. So let's switch to the seed layer. And now this one is going to be a boxcar that is full. So, which boxcar is this? Let's play that game. Freight cars and loads. The preferred boxcar. Oh, there's another little glitch. Preferred boxcar is, I believe, it's a 40-foot boxcar. And 40-foot boxcar NKP probably, considering. General goods in crate. General goods out box. Oh wow, okay. It is the same, 40-foot boxcar and Kippy. Yeah. Sure, it's down here. There we go. Put you right there. And then over here we need that big gondola that has everything. And that's the mill gondola, 52-foot mill gondola, right? Or mill gondola, 52-foot. I think this is the one. Oh no, sorry. Gondola mill 52-foot railgun. That's what it is. Pitch this thing right up against the signal. This actually is going to be empty. So, I'll slide this back as far as it can go. Looks silly, yeah, but you know what? Whatever. It is what it is. We'll see if the AI can actually get that to work. So, let's fill you up with general goods, as you should be. The box general goods. Now we need to do Frank's. Same thing, same car even. Oh, whoops. I could use any of the other identical boxcars, but for standard's sake, I guess I'm doing this. So there we go. We've got 2 more industries seated. Now we can do this place. What did I determine was the standard? I remember it being a coal car that was probably much too large for this, but I tend to like them. So, coal. That one ain't it. That one ain't it. These guys aren't it. Yeah, Penn Central 4 Bay H62. Because I really like these. Oh wait, is it just... Yeah, there it is. Oh. Really afraid he was throwing up again. Yeah, because these are still labeled PRR. The thing is, these are obviously not prototypical for like a 50s transition era road. I just really like these hoppers. They're a little bit big. Oh well. I could always change it to something else. I could eliminate these because there are a buttload of cars here that also carry coal. And like one of these, the 55-ton hoppers probably deserve the title just as much. And they look more fitting. Oops. For the era. This might be just one of the things I end up sticking with, or I might end up going through and adjusting all the coal-related things later. Anyway, last one, which is corn, that we did. C-O-R-N right there. 2B ACF, covered hopper, Boston and Maine. There you are. And I know we actually have ones for Gilson Eastern and stuff in here. So I actually, let's throw one of those down instead. Center that right up there. So, there we go. We got some cars staged over here. We have a bunch of industries done. We still have about a half an hour left where we can do some more industries. This one's a little bit daunting. I think I want to do that one on its own. I think this one, yeah, this one even takes this as an input. I don't know how I set this one up. But anyway, we can verify this one. Mason's Landing Team Track. This consumes these general goods. Consumes 30. Oh, right. Let's switch that over. Products. This. Load size. Or, yeah. Load size large. Size 80, weight bill 50. Tracks. Unload from vehicle. Processes. Unload one item every 2160, which probably makes sense. Let me just double check. Carloads per day, units per carload, 40 units per production, 2160. Yep. So that much is fine, and this is just going to be ML, Mason's Landing Team Track. And we can add a boxcar there. So this is going to be an empty one because it's been unloaded. We can do this one in a minute. Let's mark the other one off the sheet here. Oh, excuse me. Mason's Landing goods shed, which is over there. It's another inn. I guess say shipbuilding is one. Oh, right, this one's a consumer, that's why. Olaf's Beach Breakers, scrap metal. So which scrap metal? That's not specific enough. I wrote it with a capital S and capital M, but it's either scrap metal blue, or scrap metal crane. Now, the thing is, if we look at, and this is how we're going to have to rationalize things from now on, we have the metal sorting place up here, the recycling place. We need to see what it puts out and what it puts in. So it puts out just scrap, and it puts out this blue scrap. So that means the inbound scrap is the magnet scrap. And that's the unsorted scrap that we're going to be using. So let's go down there and remember that. And I think, yeah, this one's already set up as well. I just want to make sure it's good. I also need to change the name, ML, Olaf's Beach Breakers. Yeah, that's in items. Scrap metal crane 84,752, which at a glance looks right that this is, yeah, this is double that. Yeah, that's right. That is actually right. Let's just double check, make sure this is good, make sure this is good. This is a quarter of it. It produces... Hold on. Can we really not do that better? Carloads per day, 2 units per carload. 84,752. Oops, 284,752. Which, let me just do this really quick. Equals this times this. That's what we want it to be. Units per production. Let's just do 2. That's not close at all. 4. 5. 10. 14. Or, sorry, 14. We're going to need to look up factors of this thing. Although, yeah, that is... You know what? It's fine the way it is. It's fine the way it is. Although, 21,600... Let me double check, just to make sure. 21,600. We know that one. That's right. 42,37,6. 42,37,6. That one's good. We can mark that off, and we can put in a pair of gondolas that we're using for this. I don't know why it always takes me so long to find the right thing. Let's see. That was scrap here. Let's just scroll across till we find them. There it is. Mill gondola, 52-foot WLNG. WLNG right here. And we're going to put this scrap in it. Scrap metal. Fill her up. You say to the gas attendant in Jersey, who apparently is the only person allowed to pump gas. So those two are there. That one's there. Let's mark this off the list. Maybe it'd be better if I closed out everything else that I'm not using. Alright, industries. Off-beach breakers. Reset. That's Olive Branch. This is Bayside Brewery. Once again, don't really want to touch that. This one, not ready to touch because I'm not sure what I'm doing with it. Let's do the other goods shed. Which is over here. There you are. You look like you're almost right, but I didn't use units. Items. 40 items. Unload from vehicle. Processes. 2160. 1 items, 1 units. That's good. I just need to put in ML. Man, I have to stop myself from writing MV every single time, huh? ML goods shed. I need to grab a 40-foot NKP boxcar. Which again, I can swap these out for anything at any time. That's going to be empty, as if it just unloaded. And yeah, I mean that's it. Let's mark that one off. Thank goodness we're doing this now and not later. Watch me have to do it again in 2020. God, I would shoot myself. Okay. It's another one we can't do. Another one we can't do. There's the stuff back in Olive, which I'm not really enthused about potentially doing right now. That is another problem in and of itself. Oh, we can mark off the dairies. That would probably be a good one to do. Old North Milk and Dairy right here. And this one is probably right, considering we just freaking made them. 300 items, 300 units, processes, 21,675. Yeah, so that one's fine. You know what? I'm going to mark off all these, assuming they're fine, because we made them since we made the standards. So what does that leave us with? Doing the Olive stuff, doing the big ones, which we've got 20 minutes. Can we do a big one in 20 minutes? An audio store thing, yeah. We've thought about a lot of these options, believe it or not. Just coming back to that really quick. So you know how this is brown canvas covered load? I think I'm going to change this. Can anyone guess what it's going to be? Kachiga. We're going to have it make pallets and move it over to the canning place. It makes sense to me. So, you know, they make furniture, but the boards, they also make pallets on the side. I would call it furniture and more. So those guys are done. Alright, well maybe there's something little we can do. Holes in fields. Well, let's fill in one of them anyway. Let's switch back to this. We'll end off with some more scenicking. We've spent some time in the spreadsheets already. This was me being lazy and not putting trees down. 1 second. Back to the root layer. This area is pretty peak laziness, gotta be honest. It's not great. It was a kind of mediocre idea executed very mediocrely. And now here I am filling it in with the tiniest copy-paste area that I can make because I don't feel like moving in trees and drawing myself. Outstanding. And now that I can paint. That I will paint. I like the ascribed notion that this was due to a forest fire or something. It's the only sense that it can make to me. It looks terrible. But I think it's old enough that I'm kind of stuck with it. Unless somebody really wants me to redo it. Let's fill in the hole in the swamp, actually. The amount of splines here is really killer. There's just going to be one little, like a lump, like an island of trees in the middle of this giant swamp. Should probably minimize this so I can see. What's my favorite episode, honestly? I wish I could, yeah. I wish I could have, or, sorry. I'm trying to answer your question. My brain is saying many different things. My favorite episode of the Iron Horseman, possibly, uh, Council of Elders. I really loved that episode. I loved writing it. I love every time I go back and read through it. Um, Anything with Gabe and also having Mark and Lee is just, it's instant comedy gold to me. You know, it was an absolute gold mine. And yeah, some of those were almost exhausting to write because you have to keep up with the back and forth and uh, the Gabe's lunacy and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's also really fun because, I mean, hell, Gabe, you can say whatever the heck you want. He's a fourth wall breaking character for you know, in some respects. He's lost it so hard he's in the future. Oops. But yeah, that one is a pretty good one in my mind. There are some other ones that are better for other reasons, like let's see. I think, see, I can't remember the original or like the final titles of some of them. I know what they were as working titles. There was like a day on the branch line, which had to do with a day with Blount. Uh, Battle of the Aged is also a really good one. That was the first one that came to mind, but I was thinking of Council of Elders. Anyone with the two-footers is a winner for me. Again, just very fun to write for. And also the voice actors there are great to work with. There's the one with, I think it's of Cole having to manage the the line to Troy by himself, more or less, and I can't remember what it's called, but I liked that one just for the story of it. Okay, so that's in place. I love going through and finishing all these little divots. Thanks. This looks better than that. As opposed to all the angry logs you got down there, yeah. Uh, there was another one yeah, Trojan Odyssey. Thank you. Yes, that was a great episode. That was, in my opinion, a great episode from start to finish, and by that I mean from like concepting to completion. I really enjoyed just coming up with the idea for that one and then making it, turning it into a thing. We have I almost said had, but we still have it, a document of all the episode ideas that we came up with, because we would have sessions of just sitting down and throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And that was one of them. Oh, Red Scare is pretty good. Red Scare is pretty good, and it's like a good episode in like a, almost like, it's got a lot of payoff. It's got like the moral, be who you want to be sort of preachy moment there, which 100% my writing. And I remember when I was writing that being told, hey, this is getting kind of preachy, and I'm like, yes, that's my point. Yes, I'm going to be preachy right now. Let me be preachy for a second. Let me do an Aesop fable moral at the end of this thing with a big rise and moment. Uh, Again, and Andy, Andy coming in and saving the day there. Andy, not even the biggest fan of Ivan as a person, but Ivan being one of the only ones that would go along with this harebrained scheme, he kind of had to step up for him anyway. So I'm not saying that what Andy should say, what Andy's saying should like ring hollow, but that there are reasons, to come back to one of the earliest questions asked in this episode, there are reasons to why he definitely felt like it was mandatory for him to step up and say something, just beyond being a good citizen, being a good citizen and a good person. It's the difference between like uh, seeing someone getting mugged on the street and going, "Oh God, let me call the police," versus seeing someone getting mugged on the street and deciding to beat that person up yourself. Uh, the first thing we know about Andy is that he went missing. Yeah, I know, and it's one of those things where Andy actually was one of the characters that we came up with very early on, and then we didn't really have a use for him, so we didn't include him in anything. And then we get to season 2 when we're trying to write this big arc, and it's like, okay, let's make use of Andy finally. We have this character that allegedly exists, um, but let's make it more of a big thing. And the funny thing is, if you were to be able to gaze into the future at what all the future episodes would hold, there's not much Andy in them because again, we just don't have a place for him. He's like the Iron Horse and Railroad's silent engine. He's everywhere and doing all sorts of things, but he's never really a mover and shaker, much as he would want to be anyway. And that's one of the problems with the cast of characters. One of the problems with the Iron Horseman is the fact that the cast of characters was just gigantic. And I'm glad we got the opportunity over the course of the 2 seasons to sort of characterize all of them to at least a minor extent. I think given the hand that we dealt ourselves at the beginning with planning the series and all the characters, given that hand that we dealt ourselves, I think we did a really good job of making use of all those characters to the best of our ability. And that's why, despite as awkward as I might get when someone's like, "Oh, what does the Iron Horseman stand for?" when they see the thing on the side of my car, and I'm like, "Oh, it's a train series that we made, blah blah blah." If they start really digging in beyond like, "Oh, we're a group of friends, we make YouTube videos." Uh, yeah, even though it is a moment of embarrassment, if you take it sort of for what it is in context, so to speak, as like this is a trains series. It's another uh, full Buccaneers, which I mean I understand full Buccaneers is thoroughly well revered, but another full Buccaneers or another Terrible Tales, which again is kind of an league all its own, or another what's another one? The other one that I was trying to think of. The TD&W, that sort of thing. It's a train series. It's a series with talking trains. What more needs to be said for it to be cringy? And at the same time, I think we did an excellent job in the medium we were doing. I'm tooting my own horn here, but uh, an excellent job in the medium we were working in with the hand that we sort of dealt ourselves, of just like, yeah, so we're making a series. It's got talking trains, but it's not gonna be all sunshine and rainbows. We're gonna try to hit on real topics, and we really barely scratched the surface of what we could have done, which is what irks me. And I wish I had the time, and I wish we all had the drive to do more. But especially with the hard-hitting, like, end of the railroad stuff that was supposed to come along and to rule the world, or, like, potential, I suppose. Obviously, the good guys still win. Uh, but between that and the hard stuff in the retirement of Steam that's supposed to happen, because the series was supposed to run until 1962, which would be the date of the last Steam operations on the Iron Horseman Railroad. And just dealing with all that, and dealing with loss and grief, and dealing with, someone else comes in who's, someone else comes into your life who's not as good as the person you lost, or you don't think they're as good, and they have to prove themselves, blah, blah, blah. The rivalries that were funny, but sometimes not so funny, because sometimes there were half-decent consequences. And some of the stuff was played up for rule of funny, but some of it had, real endings, or at least it was going to. I know it was never going to be easy to say goodbye to a lot of those characters if we ever managed to get there, but that we were going to have to, Godspeed, Shoreline. We were absolutely going to have to make that work. I think we could have. Okay, so it's the holes like this that are going to be the big problems for me, because I need to figure out how to make the little chunks of trees that are supposed to go in there. Yeah, the community for making trains series is so small that you can do not a whole lot and have a fairly outsized impact on the community itself, or on the community at large. It's like, okay, you've heard of the Full Buccaneers, you've heard of TD&W, you've heard of you've heard of like Salmon Trains and 311 and whatever all the other ones are, and I don't know any of these really. I just hear their names. So if I'm saying if the ones I'm putting side by side are sacrilege, then I apologize. But I'm rattling off the names of the ones that I remember, or the ones that I've heard of in passing. Because I never even got to watch the Full Buccaneers. I could have, way back when I got turned on to it, which was ages ago. I was sort of turned on to it because people were like, oh, we should make a Full Buccaneers style series. That'd be cool. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do this. Let's go, full speed. They're like, well, watch Full Buccaneers, because I had never seen it. And I got like 5 minutes into it, and the faces, I couldn't do it. I couldn't watch it anymore. So I never watched very much of the Full Buccaneers. I'm going to be honest, I haven't even watched my own series. What's the word? I used to edit those things, like, stitch them together, render them, and put them up on YouTube and never look at them again. I get much more entertainment from reading the scripts, because I know my characters and I can, like, hear the voices in my head and stuff, versus what it translates to on the screen. I never thought, aside from the episodes that Weibel produced, because he's got a knack, I never really thought that our cinematography, especially mine, lived up to what the scripts were giving it. I feel like I'm a much better writer than a cinematographer. And still, I was the holder of the route, so I was in charge of a lot of that, and I did a lot of the. I had, because I was the writer, you get that sort of like, well, I wrote this, so I know what it's supposed to look like, therefore I should be the one that tries to film it. Because I also knew about being on the other end of that, which was the episodes that I didn't write, then trying to film that when they weren't written with filming necessarily in mind, you know? Uh, and the deep amount of frustration that caused. Very, very late nights before the day of release, going, "Oh God, I need to get this done. I need to figure out how to make this work." One of the things that sticks in my mind is the scene in um, the episode with Basil at the docks in the Navy. The scene in the Navy that has the spotlight on the flat car to guide the ship in, like the climactic moment of that episode. I had that was written. I don't think it was written with like making it happen in mind, uh, and I had to make that happen, and I did make it happen, and I was proud of myself at the end of it. But that was a lot of racking my brain of like, how the heck can I put a spotlight on this flat car, and how can I edit around the fact that it's just like an object that's sitting there, uh, as opposed to, anything else. So, yeah, that's that was Tales from the Making of the Iron Horseman Chronicles. 2-foot tales. Just like everything else, Hem, I'm sure you will start making 2-foot tales, and that's it. You'll start. I believe it. Okay, are there any holes in this direction? I don't think so. I'd like to think that we're done up to Lil Creek, aside from Industries. And the next hole is this one and this one. And then this one and this one. So basically we have three fields to fill in holes in a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 holes. And maybe we can get those done next episode, because then we'll be a lot closer to finishing the scenery. I'm not going to try to finish all of the... I'm not going to try to finish all of the industries before we move on. And I'm definitely not going to try to get everything automated before we move on. If we get all the terrain done, if we get all the scenery done, we're going to start building... What is this? We're going to start building west. And I hope you guys are along for that ride, because I've got to make the proper measurement of how far that's going to be compared to the number of tiles we have. Again, currently this is it's 14.99 miles of main line between Olive and Mason's Landing on rails. So, assuming we're just basically doubling that, we're going to be out here somewhere. But if we look at the map again really quick, because I'll show this again. If we look at the map again really quick, it seems like farther. I have my little scale bar up here for what 15 miles is supposed to be, but I think this is longer than 15 miles. That said, it's, even if it's 20 miles, it's 20 miles of going in relatively straight lines over relatively flat terrain, with maybe some hills in the southern distance. Yeah, there's not going to be a lot that's crazy that's going on here. The other thing is, if we look at like what we're doing over here in Mason's Landing, the one thing we're missing is a road. We don't have a road and we don't have a ferry. Which something like this probably would have, especially considering it's a landing. But that's why this exists, and then the going up here, and then the road that's going to lead over this way. So, I also have the highway that's looping around this way, because it doesn't want to cross the valley here. It's following the old right-of-way. Anyway, so we will, I suppose, cross that river when we come to it, and this river, and this river. And then we get to work on another little railroad, too. So I'm not even sure where on the priority list this would be. Once we get this done and this done, and that's another 1, 2, 3. So if we call this one segment, and if we call this one big segment, which we possibly could, I might want to call it one big segment, then we have a big chunk of the top of the peninsula. We have like half of the top of the peninsula. We have none of the inland, basically. And then it's a question of what do I do next? I probably want to continue along the Gills and Eastern. And once I get that done, the next thing to do might be all of this. Not in one segment, but, all of this. Including this run through this gap here and the Mansfield Branch Railroad. So, yeah. That's that. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Interesting to learn all this IHR stuff. More knowledgeable in IHR lore than some people. Yeah, no, I'm becoming more open about sharing the Iron Horseman lore stuff because I know that it's realistically never going to get turned into good, fully produced episodes that are going to hit the public. And at some point, I need to finish doing the reorganization of the channels and the reorganization of all the documents and let everybody see the scripts and see what might have been. So, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will see you more next week. This is the Admiral,